To comma or not to comma? That is the question. How do you know as you're writing when to use a comma and when not to? Well, stick with me because I'm about to share with you 8 basic uses for a comma. Hi, I'm Teresa Fink from Companions on the Journey Proofreading, and I've created a punctuation PDF that gives simple explanations for the comma and all of the other pieces of punctuation you need for effective communication. I've included a link below, so if you would like a copy of that PDF, feel free to go to that link and download a copy for yourself. And if this information resonates with you, be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell notification so that you can be notified when future videos are posted. Now, let's dive in. What are those 8 basic uses for a comma? The first one is to separate 2 independent clauses that are joined together by a coordinating conjunction like and, for, but, nor, any of the fan voice conjunctions. Now, an independent clause has a subject and a verb, and it completes a thought, so it can stand alone as its own sentence. When 2 independent clauses are joined together by that coordinating conjunction, you do put the comma before the conjunction. An example of this would be, Tammy went to the store and she bought all the ingredients she needed to try a new recipe. Number 2, use a comma to separate an introductory clause from the rest of the sentence. Typically, an introductory clause will be a dependent clause, which means it has a subject and a verb, but it does not complete a thought, so it cannot stand alone as a sentence. When you're writing, you will write the introductory clause, comma, and then the independent clause that follows it. An example of this would be, when you're done washing the windows, please beat the rugs. Number 3, use a comma to separate a series of 3 or more items. You will place your comma after each item, even between the last 2 items that have the word and between them. This is known as an Oxford comma or a serial comma. An example of this would be, Jane was asked to bring a tent, a sleeping bag, a pillow, and a flashlight to the camping trip. Number 4, use a comma to separate a non-restrictive clause from the rest of the sentence. A non-restrictive clause simply adds extra information to the sentence. It is not critical to understand the meaning of the sentence. In fact, you can take the non-restrictive out of the sentence completely and the sentence will still mean the same thing. You can identify a non-restrictive clause because it typically begins with words like who, whom, whose, that, and which. You can have a non-restrictive clause in the middle of a sentence or at the end of a sentence. If it's in the middle of a sentence, then you will need to surround that non-restrictive clause with commas. If it's at the end of the sentence, then you would put the comma before the non-restrictive clause begins. An example of this would be, my friend Jenny, whom I told you about, is traveling the world with her husband and is sending me postcards from each of their stops. Number 5, use a comma to separate a non-restrictive appositive from the rest of the sentence. An appositive is a noun or noun phrase that renames a noun in the sentence. And non-restrictive, again, means it is simply extra information. An example of this would be, Mary Lou Retton, an Olympic gold medalist, is an exceptional athlete. Number 6, use a comma to indicate direct address. In other words, identifying the name of the person being spoken to in the sentence. Depending on where that name comes in the sentence, it can either be preceded by a comma, surrounded by commas, or followed by a comma. An example of this would be, please, Elena, put the books you're returning on the counter. Number 7, use a comma to set off direct quotations in a dialogue between 2 or more people. An example of this would be, Sally got a new puppy yesterday, Mary told her mom. Number 8, use a comma when writing dates, addresses, titles, and numbers in a sentence. When you're writing a date, you would separate the year from the rest of the sentence by surrounding the year with commas. An example of this would be, Margaret was born on July 7th, 1776, to her parents Sam and Ellie Ridgway. For an address, you would separate each element of the address by commas except for the zip code. There is no comma between the state and the zip code. An example of this would be, Sean lives at 546 Maple Lane, Anytown, New Jersey, 01145. When you're writing a title, whether it's an academic title or otherwise, you would put the title immediately after the person's name and surround it with commas. An example of this would be Kelly O'Shea, MD, put a shingle out in her hometown. And when you're writing numbers that are digits of 4 or more, you will place a comma between each grouping of 3 numbers. An example of this would be, your total for the ring is $5,495. There you have it. Those are the 8 basic uses for a comma. Now in a future video, I'm going to share with you some information on when not to use a comma. So be sure that you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so that you are notified when that video is posted. And friendly reminder, download a copy of that punctuation PDF I told you about earlier. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you in the next video.